Melissa was a proud and brilliant 15-year-old girl who was too soon burdened by life, thanks to her father, had endured a protracted and difficult fight against a fatal sickness, but he ultimately lost the day they buried him. Melissa passed away as well. Her father had always told her that she was bright and would change the world one day, but now she was just trying to survive. Her mother struggled financially and worked nonstop to pay the bills, but it wasn't enough. Eventually, their landlord showed up with a chilly, uncaring demeanor and told them to vacate if they couldn't afford it. Melissa clenched her fists in silent rage, but they were powerless and had nowhere to go. So they packed what little they had and sought refuge under a deserted bridge at night, using Ethelpet cardboard boxes as makeshift blankets. The cold bit through their thin clothing, but Melissa refused to beg because she had promised her mother that no matter what happened, they wouldn't lose their dignity. But for the first few days, Melissa's mother was able to scrape together enough money from odd jobs to keep them afloat, but there wasn't any work. The severe winter weather quickly made it impossible to acquire food, and 2 days passed without a single meal. Melissa could feel the loneliness tearing at her insides. But what was worse was seeing her mother deteriorate with every hour. Her once strong and resilient mother was now hardly able to stand, her hands shaking and her breath coming in short gasps. That night, Melissa swallowed her pride and walked toward a row of trash cans, her hands shaking as she reached inside, tears welling up in her eyes. If Dad were here, we would never have ended up like this, she thought bitterly, but a voice broke the silence. Melissa could handle her own hunger any longer, but watching her mother slowly fade was unbearable. It hurts me to see you like this, youngster. Melissa turned around. Standing there was a man with somewhat unkempt hair, pleasant eyes, and a simple yet attractive outfit. There was something comforting and secure about him. My name is John Bonjoy, the man said. Could you tell me your story? Melissa kept her eyes on the ground. She didn't want to talk. She was tired of people looking at her with pity of empty words and fake concern. But there was something different about this man. There was no judgment in his eyes, only pure empathy and understanding something inside her cracked, and the emotion she had buried for so long threatened to spill over. She took a shaky breath, her voice barely above a whisper. My father died, she said, her voice trembling. He was really sick, but we didn't have the money to get him proper treatment. I watched him slip away right in front of me. And after that, my mom and I lost everything. We lost our home. We ran out of money. People who used to smile at us don't even see us anymore. Now we live on the streets. My mom has tried work, but it's never enough. And now we can't even fight the hunger anymore. Bon G's expression darkened with sorrow. He had struggled his youth, had known hunger, had fought to survive, but this was different. My mother is so frail that she can hardly stand. She always made sure I had enough, but now she has nothing left to offer. Today, for the first time, I saw her collapse, which is why I'm here. Melissa's voice trembled, but it held the weight of a scream buried deep inside her. We haven't eaten in 2 days. I began searching through the trash in the hopes of finding food. But I don't want to be here. I don't want to live like this. And I know that nobody will help us. To people, we are just shadows on the street. Her voice broke as a sob escaped her throat, tears streaming down her face, but she wiped them away quickly. She wasn't weak, she wasn't a beggar, and she raised her head to meet Bon G's gaze. I am not someone to be pied, but if my mother dies, I will also die, which is why I'm here. Bon Joy's eyes welled with tears as he reflected on his own childhood, when life had hit him hard in the face, and he had hoped that someone would reach out and help him. But nothing he had gone through had been comparable to the suffering this young girl was going through. Then out of the corner of his eye, he saw that Melissa was holding an old, worn-out math textbook in her hands. The cover was peeling. The pages were yellowed and frayed, but it was well-maintained as though it were her most valuable possession. What are you doing with that book? He asked gently. Melissa winced, not expecting him to see her fingers clench around the edges of the book as though to shield it while she studied. She reluctantly acknowledged, I want to go to college one day. I'm good at math, but I don't think it matters anymore, because if things stay like this, that day will never come. Bon Joy was silent for a while before grinning subtly, but his eyes were still full of passion. He thought, a mind like yours doesn't belong on the streets, but he added out loud, if you're really that talented, then you're a genius, and geniuses don't belong in the trash. For the first time, someone was viewing Melissa as a person with a future rather than just a starving girl, a statistic, or someone to feel sorry for. Melissa looked at him in shock. Was he serious? No one had ever considered her as anything other than a lost cause, another unfortunate soul. Bon Jovi inhaled deeply. He said firmly, I'm going to do something for you, but let's get you something to eat first. Melissa paused, but something inside of her changed, possibly for the first time in a long time, and she felt secure. She nodded softly and moved forward to walk next to him. John Bon Jovi took Melissa and her mother to his charity restaurant, where people in need could eat without worrying about money. He explained that the meals were free for those who couldn't afford them, but Melissa was hesitant to accept help because of her pride. However, when her mother, who was crying, gave a trembling thank you, Melissa lowered her gaze and nodded silently, realizing that it wasn't just about her. Her mother needed this, and she couldn't let her pride get in the way as they ate. After closely observing Melissa, Bon Jovi realized that she had a remarkable mind in addition to resilience, and he couldn't let that go unnoticed. You're very intelligent, he said, breaking the silence, so I'm going to make you an offer. I can't let your talent be wasted. After a few days, Melissa's life took a permanent turn for the better. Bon Jovi not only gave him food, but also a place to live. But his greatest act of kindness was setting up a scholarship that would pay for Melissa's education each year. He told Melissa, I don't just want to give you a meal, I want to give you a future. Melissa's eyes filled with tears as she uttered, I never thought anyone would do something like this for me, her voice trembling. Bon Jovi grinned broadly, saying that sometimes all it takes to change someone's life is to open the proper door. 2 years later, Melissa had established herself as a genuine prodigy. At the age of 17, she had passed several IQ tests with distinction, gained notoriety, and been accepted into one of the best institutions in the nation. In addition to providing her with food and shelter, Bon Jovi had given her hope for the future. Before leaving for college, a fresh start Melissa wrote him a note that said, You gave me more than just food, you gave me life. One day, I hope to help others the way you helped me, because when someone reached out, my entire world transformed. After reading the letter, Bon Jovi grinned because he realized that he had altered not just one girl's future, but also hers. Melissa's story demonstrates how one act of kindness can eternally alter a person's life. If this story resonated with you, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the video, because sometimes the smallest deed can lead to the biggest blessings.